And we're back with Dr. Kim. Let's get into what we were talking about before, which is how you started and got involved with Cornerstone Endodontics. You didn't start it, but you kind of partnered with a guy from church.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I was in my residency for about 2.5 years, and he gave me a call. And he said, "Hey, what are your plans afterwards?" And I said, I really don't have any plans. He said, "You don't have any opportunities that you're considering or anything like that yet?" And I'm like, "No, not really." And he said, "Well, why don't you come back and join us? We'll make room for you." And at the time, he had another business partner. And, I said, let me talk to Pam, and I'll get back with you. And we came up here, visited, had dinner with them both, and it just seemed like a really good fit. So we decided to come back and join his practice.
What'd that look like? Did they give you partnership automatically, or was it vested?
Yeah, so that portion of the business was there was a little bit of sweat equity in it.
Yeah.
But then eventually, after I got some recognition with the referring doctors, and we started to see some favorable referring patterns established, then I went to the bank and I took out a loan and I bought in.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how was that conversation with the wife?
It was good
fine?
because I told her, I said, "Look, this is a part of something that we can be a part of that is going to help us across the board. We are going to become partners with some dear friends of ours, and we're going to join a Christian practice, and all of those things." And yeah, she was like, "Do it, let's do it."
So the other two owners, Christian too.
Yes,
that makes things a lot easier, I think.
Yep.
Right.
So at the time, we had 3 business partners. We were all believers, and it was great because it's not our standard for practice; it's his. Mm-hmm. So the question is already answered. In dentistry, like in all aspects of business, everywhere, there are things that you can do. You can cut corners if you want, and no one knows about it.
Yes.
Right? But yet, if it's his business, it's his standard going forward, that makes it easy. Yeah.
So how long ago was that when you joined that practice?
Yeah, so I joined I joined Cornerstone in 2004, and I've been there ever since.
2004. So then over those many years, you've probably had some situations with, I don't know how it feels to have a business partner. I've always just been individual, but I've also seen flourishing businesses with partnerships. So do you have any do's or don'ts on that whole experience?
Yeah. So, when it's his standard, it's a lot easier. You're not dealing with other people's opinions on certain matters. There's always a scriptural basis, I believe, for solving things, right? Don't get me wrong. There's been some challenges in our partnership. There have been, but we were able to solve these and address these biblically. And, it was good. It was really good. We had that third partner. He went down with a disability. Okay. And there were some issues with that. That's all I can say is that.
Yeah, of course.
And, but it was, we have a pretty clear conscience of it because it was really what grieved me through that breakup with our business partner. I thought that we were all mature enough to talk amongst ourselves.
Yeah.
But yet he chose to hire a lawyer, and we had to do that too. And that was still one of the things that I don't know, disappointed in.
Yeah. It's pretty clear in the Bible. We're not supposed to really bring legal action against other believers.
Exactly.
Right. But,
Yeah.
Every situation is unique, and it's probably difficult if you're in a situation where you're disabled or you have some sort of condition going on. And I can, but any others of what do you?
Yeah. So, it's always when you do endodontics, there are certain times where you don't achieve the desired result. Whether you have a technology failure where an instrument separates within the tooth, or you try your best, but yet something happened where it's not ideal. I've always just held to the notion of just be truthful, own it. So when I perf a tooth, when I accidentally get squirrely inside a tooth and it's not an ideal result, I always write that in my letter and I own it. And I say, and I write the letter back to the referring dentist, hey, I struggled with this case and this is why. And I tell him that or her that. And I've realized I did this early on in my career, and it's been good because as we have grown professionally with these referring doctors, they understand that, not every case is going to be perfect. There are going to be times when you fall short of expectations, but yet if you own it and you are truthful about it, that just bodes well. I mean, God is glorified in that. And that's where I sleep at night pretty well because of that.
I think that's such wisdom of, I call it the eat your feedback sandwich. But even
fair enough.
It's even owning the result. I mean, you're the one doing it, so whatever result comes about is because of your doing.
Right.
So we have to own it either way, whether it's good or bad. And I think, from my opinion, I think pride always gets in the way of that.
Oh, absolutely.
I can only imagine because doctors tend to be, very intelligent, and I mean, you guys are basically doing God's work, healing people. So I think for a lot of people, that will then give them a real sense of confidence, which then sometimes turns into pride, where it's like, hey, maybe I don't know, or maybe I screwed up here. But I think that's such wisdom on just being very transparent. I know that whoever's listening to this, there's not one person who wouldn't want a completely honest, transparent doctor.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Goodness. I mean, just give it to me.
Yeah.
So how many partners do you guys have now?
So that's the thing. At the height of, right before COVID, that really affected us. We were shut down for 8 weeks.
Yeah.
Because we couldn't find any KN95 masks because the entire world was looking for them. And we made it a decision to where we're not gonna put our staff at risk. We're not gonna do that. So we shut down our business for 8 weeks until we were able to get the masks and the proper PPE equipment. Those masks were 20 cents a piece before COVID. Afterwards, they were $3.50 a piece. And the minimum quantity that we had to buy was 4,000. So we wrote a check of, I'd say about $14,000, $16,000 to a guy that told us that our masks were on a boat on the way here. We had no idea. I didn't know this guy from Adam 2 months ago because all of our sources, they just didn't have them. So this is what we had to do. So anyway, that got us thinking of what are we going to do? I mean, this is something that, we were shut down because of, it wasn't our decision to walk away and shut down for 8 weeks. It was someone else's.
Yep.
That was, sources beyond our control were in play here. So then that began a conversation between all of us as to, okay, so what do we need to do? What's our exit strategy? What happens if there's another version of COVID that comes down that's going to be, what are we going to do? We have to have a plan. So then we started talking about our exit plan and our exit strategy. And, the trend now in dentistry is DSOs, dental service organizations,
Yeah.
acquiring smaller offices. And we actually started talking with a couple of these, and we ended up selling our practice to
How many
DSO.
partners were at the time?
At the time, we had 3.
Okay.
And we had 2 associates. So now we have 3. We have 6 endodontists in our practice, in our group, and 5 of the 6 are partners now in this company.
So, when did you guys sell?
We sold about
What year?
A couple years ago.
So during COVID.
Yeah, pretty
Wow.
close. Yeah.
So, I'm guessing that you guys were thinking about, well, what's the end game here, right? So that was probably a big part of it.
Yeah.
And when you guys were vetting out the companies that were interested in purchasing you guys, what did that process look like? What were you looking for? And
It was dentistry is a phenomenal career choice. It really is. For those that are cut out to be a dentist, it's awesome. I am grateful that I chose to be in dentistry versus medicine. I really am.
yeah,
However, that being said, there's a business aspect to this as well. And they don't teach you that much of business in dental school. You just don't do that. So that makes it very difficult. And we found that as we continue to practice, so compliance with OSHA, compliance with HIPAA, compliance with all of these things, ordering, doing payroll, and then we had to, if we had to defend some things with the boards and all. I mean, there's just a lot of things involved in the business that this DSO took care of. And it's been a great fit because, if you ask every dentist that you come across, if you ask them, hey, what would be your dream job? They would probably say, all I want to do is do the dentistry. That's all I want to do. And that's all I have to do now because they take care of everything else. That's a no-brainer.
So you gave up the autonomy
Yes.
for the ability to focus on what you love
The good thing
most.
about that autonomy is we still are able to do what we do because this company recognized, hey, you guys you did not become Cornerstone by other people. So for us to make changes to that, that's crazy. He says, you do what you do because that's how you got to be where you're at today. So they gave us total control of the autonomy that we have. So that made it nice. They just take care of all the stuff that, the headache
back end stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
all the how the sausage is made. We don't have to deal with that anymore.
Oh my goodness, what truth is that? There's so many cases with that, not just with dentistry, but even just physicians, et cetera, et cetera. And when you are going to school, you're like, oh, I want to have my own dentist, my own practice. And you think about, oh, I'm going to show up, I'm going to do that, see the patients and all that. But then the reality hits, and it's, oh, I got to also make sure that the front desk is staffed. I have to make sure that the phone is getting answered. Insurance is getting taken care of because most people are probably going to try to use that. And then here's the other one: is managing your staff. That's a whole nother animal that you have to tame. And I think it's a really good situation if you can find people or an organization who love doing that. And I think you said it earlier of you got to find what you really love doing. And even if it's maybe later on you do that, like right now you might have to do things you don't want to do to get there and sacrifice.
Sure.
But I think that is really the sweet spot because that's God's gift to us, or that's how God wired us. Of if you enjoy doing it, you're going to go 300%. But if you don't enjoy doing it, you could probably barely get to 50.
Yeah, sure.
And that's probably the business and the billing and all that stuff.
It really is.
So what about, here's my question is, do you guys have any conflict or do you have any situations where you guys want to have more of a biblical, Christian culture, but then the organization's maybe not so much there?
Yeah, so it's hard because we have prayer every day. We do. We start our day with prayer at every location.
Who's in this prayer?
Just we take one of the doctors right now is pregnant. So every day when I lead prayer, I'm praying for the doctor and bless her and the baby with a great day. That kind of thing.
Is it just the doctors, or do you have all other
Everyone,
staff?
all the people that are available. I mean, we're busy. Starting at 7:45, we're hitting the road, hitting the phones, all of that. The phone starts ringing, so it's pretty like clockwork. So we have our morning prayer usually at about 7:45. Yeah,
And I'm guessing, I mean, some of the staff are not
right.
Christian.
So we gave them the option. We
Yeah.
give them the option. Hey, when we hire folks, we say we start every day with prayer. You're welcome. It's optional. If you want to join us, you're more than welcome to. If you don't, we're not forcing this. And people come and go as they want to. So what's been interesting though is we'll have some of our assistants that aren't saved, that don't know the Lord. They'll come in with a prayer request.
I've heard that many times, which is interesting.
Yeah.
If there's not a belief there, then why are you bringing the prayer request? Right. But then it really reveals that maybe deep down there's something there.
They're seeking.
Yes.
Absolutely. So, my approach to staff has changed quite a bit. When I first started, I was nothing but truth. I would just pound the table with the Bible. And I found myself inflicting the love of Christ versus sharing it. Right? And that was something that God really changed my approach to that. So now I temper the truth with grace.
Yes.
Right? So now it's different. We've had some assistants that struggle with that, and they're still there though. And now, by the mercy of God, they realize that I have changed my approach. And instead of me just pointing out some things, what the Bible says about this or that, I don't do that anymore, not as often. But when they do come to me and they're saying, hey, for instance, a couple years ago, there was an assistant that came. She said, Dr. Kim, I have a lump on my tongue. The oral surgeon doesn't know what it is. He wants to do a biopsy immediately. She was just weeping. She started crying. She says, what if it's cancer? And I said, okay, let's just focus in on what we know. And I just went through that with her. I said, we don't know what it is. You're in great hands with the oral surgeon that we sent you to. They're doing a pathology. We're catching it early. It's not that big. Let's just focus in on that and let's pray. So I prayed with her, and then they got the pathology report back. It wasn't cancer. Okay, but it was an exercise for me to be able to show my Christ-likeness to a staff member that wasn't saved. And, I think she realizes, hey, he cares about me. I don't think anywhere else I would work where I would have a boss that would do something like that. And I called her and I said, hey, are you doing okay? That kind of thing. During that interim time of waiting, I was able to, God really used that in her life. I don't think she's a believer, but I believe that the needle moved a little bit for his kingdom.
I think you hit it on the head there of how we should be sharing the faith. I think it starts with the Christ-likeness and really reflecting Christ, right? And if they ask, then we speak the truth. But to speak the truth without any sort of relationship that's been built, it's like you're just falling on deaf ears.
Yeah.
Right. That relationship is built when we are acting like Christ. Like, who doesn't want to be friends with Christ? Goodness, right? Anybody would. If you're an atheist, he's the ultimate human being, the best one ever and forever. Any other examples that you might have of how you're integrating your faith in the workplace? You're doing prayers. Mm-hmm. You were doing a little bit of Bible thumping, kind of came back on that.
Yeah. I think that a lot of our staff, single moms, or they've come from really struggles with their upbringing. A lot of young ladies, and that's where it's so important to just be at a different level in how you interact with them, how you just respect them, right? And it's and being a believer has really helped with that. So when they're sick, we'll pray for them. We'll ask them, "Hey, how you feeling today? You doing okay?" There's a certain amount of trust when you walk into that operatory with the patient and your assistant is there. You trust that they know what you're going to do. There's just all these instinctual things that you get, but that's cultivated over time. Well, I believe that relationship is also cultivated as well outside of the operatory. And so when we have Christmas parties, we have them every year. We give out our Christmas bonus checks, but yet it's also usually it's dry. They know that the doctors are not going to spring for alcohol because it's our desire that, hey, we don't do that. We'll get tea and we'll get Coke and we'll get water and all the lemonade, whatever, Arnold Palmer's, but it's not alcohol.
Okay.
So what they usually do is after the party, they'll have their own after party with it, and that's okay.
That's their choice.
That's their choice, right?
Yeah. You have any scripture verses that guide you in your personal life?
Professional
life.
Oh gosh, I think it was one of these where just being found faithful to what God has given. Every day I'm grateful for the practice that I'm able to go to, the gifts that He has gifted me through my hands and my mind. So I have the didactic background, but yet it translates to how I access the tooth and do the root canal. Grateful for that. So I don't really have a verse. It's just I think just standing on truth and just loving people as Christ has loved you, and also just the gift that He gives you through His Son is something that it's unbelievable.
How often are you in Scripture throughout the week?
So every morning I try to have my devotions. I'm an early riser, so so a lot of the guys. So I'll send texts to various groups of guys. So I'll read through Scripture. So I'll read through. We had a marriage conference earlier on, and they were going through some essential scriptures for husbands, for men. And it was just, and I'm just cycling through that every morning. So I'll text my wife, I'll text my sons, I'll text my daughter-in-law now, my new daughter-in-law, and then I will text some scriptures to some folks that are struggling with cancer right now. I know of 3 of them right now. One of them just went home to be with the Lord. So there are 3 of them that I just encourage on a daily basis. Then we have several groups of guys that I participate with socially and through ministry. And we're just sending out those scriptures every day.
So you and your wife decided to adopt a Korean boy. And you want to get into that story a little bit?
Yeah. So I was resistant to adoption for the longest time because my brother-in-law is adopted, and he treated my in-laws very, very badly. And I just didn't want to deal with that. I was like, as the spiritual leader of the home, I just bringing in that kind of influence, I just wanted to avoid that. But I quickly realized through friends that have adopted that that's not necessarily the case. Hard kids are going to be hard regardless of whether or not you had them biologically or you adopted them.
Amen
They're going to
to
be
that.
hard, right?
Yep.
So, after faithful prayers of 14 years, God changed my heart. And my wife came up to me, Pam came up to me, and she said, hey, we better do this. If we're going to do this adoption thing, because next year I'm going to be too old. The adoption agency had some parameters for age, and we're on the end of that. So she said, do you think that we can fill out some paperwork? And I said, sure, let's do it. And that's when she was like, oh my gosh, what did you say yes? And I said, yeah, let's do it. And she says, okay. I said, I'm busy with practice. I just need to be able to just sign stuff, and that's it.
Yeah.
I'll go to like the background checks. I'll do all of that. But as far as me running around and getting all this paper, she says, I'll take care of all of that. And she did. We filled out a stack of papers that was at the time as thick as a yellow pages. Back in the day, I mean, it was a pile, and she took care of all that. Every week and a half, she said, I need for you to sign this. Sign this. We have to go to the notary. I mean, we had to do all this stuff, but she was on it. So I knew, all right, she's serious about this because, she was on top of that like no one else.
Was adopting a Korean boy, was that on purpose?
We wanted an international versus one that was domestic. Mm-hmm. And then we started to look into that. We were looking at other nationalities, but then I said, hey, there's a need in Korea, and there's a culture in the Korean culture of, there's still a stigma of that. Noah's mother was 16 when she had him. She was at a halfway house because she got kicked out because it was still a disgrace on the family to have an unwed single mother-to-be. Mm-hmm. So she had to make arrangements, but God bless her. She chose not to abort the baby. She chose not to abort Noah. She had him. And it's like we are grateful for that, and we will always be grateful for that.
So he's a student here with us.
Yes, he is.
Yeah. Is there do you know kind of the story behind how you guys decided to, or why you decided to put him at
I have to
Coma?
tell you, our oldest, he went through a Taekwondo place other than Coma. Mm-hmm. And we noticed that immediately when we walked into this studio versus his studio, this one was a lot more organized. You have a couple locations. I mean, you have done the due diligence in setting this thing up because we've been through a black belt process at another studio, and it was not well run. It was unorganized. At least with here, everything is laid out. I mean, you have a black belt club available, and I'll tell you, that in and of itself is something that's very, very good to see. And we knew from the first visit, our first, complimentary session here, it was like, wow, okay, this is different. And we're glad we made the switch.
Awesome.
We really are.
That's such a blessing. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
Noah's awesome. Goodness, I remember that boy. He's got some energy.
He does.
I remember the first time I met him, he said, "Can I show you my backflip?" I said, "How about not in front of the other students? Because then they're going to want to do it and they might hurt themselves."
Yeah.
How about we do it on a different time? But wow, that boy's energy is just amazing.
And I'm grateful for Coma because he struggled with that. The usual direction with boys his age, put him in a sport, put him on a team, or do something like that. Well, he's not really, that's not his niche. But here, Oh my gosh. It is like every day he talks about TKD. That's what he does. And he's like, Dad, you want to see my form? I learned this today in class. And he's just showing me. And you can tell that this is resonating in him. And it's just the call to discipline, the call to be better than oneself every day. Just beating yesterday, it's evident and it's good. And it's like, so we're excited. I don't know where this is going to take him, but get your popcorn ready. It's going to be a ride. He is excited.
I told
So
him,
are we.
I'm like, you're going to be one of our instructors.
Oh my goodness.
Yes. You already got the Korean thing going on.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, he would consider that a privilege because he sees this and he's like, Dad, I want to be a part of this. And it's like, it's good to see that.
Excellent.
really
Thank you
is.
for sharing that.
Sure.
As we wrap this up, how can our listeners learn more about Cornerstone Endodontics?
Yeah, so you can look us up on our webpage. We do have a webpage available, and feel free to reach out. That's the best place. We have our mission statement there. We also have our philosophy on how we practice endodontics. So that is one of those things where you would get an insight and how we practice and why we practice the way that we do.
So if you're having an issue that you might need a root canal, make sure you reach out to Dr. Kim. He'll take care of you. We'll put the link on our website. Dr. Kim, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me.